Hey, good evening. Today is Thursday. I have my husband here with me. Thursday, February 24th, I believe. Yep. And we had a continuing education class, and the instructor was very good. I'm glad to say I learned a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm a know-it-all, but I'm always looking to learn. And um, I thought, you know what, this would be a good topic to share with you guys. Because wherever you live, and I've talked about it before, home inspections, but what kind of home inspections do you need wherever you're living? In Corpus Christi, central Corpus Christi, we have expansive clay soil, we have flood zones, we have drywood termites, subterranean termites, we have carpenter ants, we have carpenter bees, and certain little critters that destroy wood. We call them, we get a wood report when we do an inspection. So here in Corpus, if you're in the main part of town where we're not on the sand, Padre Island, Port A, Rockport, Flower Bluff, Ingleside, they have a lot of sand. So you don't have to worry about expansive soil moving and causing any kind of foundation movement and or plumbing issues. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have plumbing issues. I'm just saying they're not caused by the soil expanding, contracting so much due to unstable soil. So what do we do to stabilize that soil? Is you have a soaker hose around the house and you run it and keep that soil moderately with some moderate moisture so that when it dries, it doesn't shrink away from your foundation, causing your foundation to sag, or when the rain hits it real hard, it doesn't cause it to kind of explode and pop it up. Okay, so it keeps it moderate so that when the rain comes, it just moves a little bit, and when it dries, it moves a little bit. So it's not this extensive movement in the soil. And we have, like I was talking about, the termites and the wood destroying insects. We have those insects here. In Rockport, though, we have Formosan termites, and those can be pretty wild. And in Houston, honey, and those guys can be a little tricky because they get in your wall and you can't see them, and they build these big nests and they're hard to find. And in Hawaii, I know that we pretty much would tent that every house that we sold in Hawaii. And now that I think about it, it's because of the Formosan, those type of termites that get up in your wall and they make nests in there and they're hard to get out and you can't see them. Okay, so you want to have good inspectors that know what they're doing, that help you and your clients, if you're a newer agent, set up proper expectations on what is to be expected on a house. Let's say you've got a new house versus an older house, or a house in this location versus a house on that location, versus a house on the water versus a house inland. And I hear my dog, like he's trying to circle and go to bed. You hear him? Do you hear him? Our Rottweiler's like, I'm trying to get comfortable here. Okay, Rocky, go sleepy. Go sleepy. So, when you buy an older home, I like to draw analogies of to cars, right? So if you buy a car from 2000, it's not going to have the safety precautions or the upgrades that a car from 2010 or 2020 have, right? Same thing goes for houses. A house from, our house, I think, is 1960, 1959. And it needed an upgrade. Rocky, honey, stop. I don't know what he's doing. He's like, I want to go to bed, but I can't settle down. But in our house, we had to upgrade the electrical, because they didn't have grounded outlets and the panel and all that. In our homes, in an older home, we had cast iron, and cast iron is not necessarily a bad thing if it's in sand necessarily, and if it's not getting deteriorated. But with the expansive soil, what happens with the cast iron is it starts to deteriorate and break and crumble and even crack in half and fall apart, and then it gets clogged up. And so here in Corpus Christi, if you've got those cast iron pipes, you're going to have them rerouted, okay, with new PVC. Some use ABS. It's a black kind of plastic pipes. So, those are things to be aware of, because I've met people here in Corpus Christi that had bought homes and they said, well, we bought it with the cast iron and our agent didn't say anything. Well, and it turned out they bought a house from a listing agent who didn't really help them understand what they were doing. And then when they went to sell it, I told them, I said, no one's going to buy the house with the pipes the way they are. They are going to ask you to fix it, or maybe they'll take it, but you're going to take that $25,000 hit in the sales price, because they're expecting that to be done by now, So I would never let a buyer buy a house with that old plumbing, because they're going to face a huge bill. And if they don't have the cash, they're going to have all sorts of problems. Okay. So, what else, honey? Plumbing, foundation, once again, depending where they live, foundation may not be an issue, but in a lot of Corpus Christi and surrounding areas, foundation is an issue. Okay, when you're living on the water, is the water receding? There are some parts over in Flower Bluff. There was a property sold in the last 6 months, and it looked really great. But when you really took a look at it, half the property had been taken over by the water. It was receding. Okay, so half of the property, the land was now underwater, so they couldn't even use half the lot. They showed this big property, and half of it was underwater. There's roof issues. How old's the roof? Are they worn? Have they been damaged? Not only that, even if they're older, it's having an old roof, even though it might be okay, and you're willing to take it in the negotiation because the negotiations are tight, then you're facing higher insurance premiums. So, there's a lot of things to be aware of when you're buying a home. And wherever you live, if you live somewhere where there's basements, you need to test the radon and make sure there's no radon. Lead-based paint. The thing with lead-based paint is, I tell people, no one here is going to give you a credit if you have lead-based paint, and rarely ever. I've never had anyone test for lead-based paint. But even if you had lead-based paint, bottom line is, don't scrape it, don't let it flake everywhere and inhale it. Don't breathe it in if you're pulling off crumbling paint. You have to get it wet, and because it contains the dust. The dust, when it gets in the lungs, like kids and dogs would go pick paint, eat paint apparently, and they would get lead poisoning. Right? Windows too, something else to look at. Yeah. Windows. Yeah. Well, windows too. Here we have, in the older homes, it's not uncommon to have single pane aluminum windows. Is it a deal breaker? No, they're not going to give you new double pane windows. They're not. But if you have them, it is definitely better, I guess. We've had both. We had single pane windows, aluminum windows in our previous home. We were fine with it. And now we have double pane windows. And then hurricane shutters. Do they have hurricane shutters for the house? If not, you're going to have to make sure you get some plywood cut. Most people do. And that's very tedious, putting up your hurricane shutters. I don't think we've ever done it. I think we put them up once. So, there's just a lot to know. So make sure you get a good real estate agent who knows their market, understands what to look for, knows how to help you form the right expectations. Because if you're buying an older home, you can't be demanding the things of a new home. You can't. It's not, you don't go buy a car that was made without an airbag and say, well, I want you to put an airbag in for the same price. I want you to put a roof on for the same price. If you're getting a deal, no, you're going to have to pay for it. You have to up the price of the home, and there's no guarantee that you're going to appraise. But usually, more often than not we do, but you never know. So you've got to be ready either way. Anything else, honey? Plumbing.
To do with the inspection is to make sure you look at the like yesterday with different homes here in Katy.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the taxes.
Oh yeah. Well, that's not part of a home inspection, but when you're looking for homes, keep in mind the tax rate, because you might go, oh my gosh, I found this great home. I'm so excited. Right. And then you're getting ready to close and like your numbers are so high and you're like, what is going on? Why, well, it's because the tax rate is like crazy high. So, but let's go back to the home inspections, grading, the yard isn't graded. I have yet to really find a yard that was graded. And fortunately on I think I can think of one home that I sold, and I think it was new construction. They were willing to grade the property or something. Like nobody here will like grade your property. So, our over time soil kind of can swell up and rise up. And so the water will kind of come over towards the house. Well, it's not preferable, but you're going to have to deal with it yourself. You're not negotiating that. So once again, setting up the right expectations to understand very common here when it comes to the windows. Good point. Is we have those double pane windows and they have gas in between them. Okay. And there's seals around the windows. And when it gets hot, those little gasket seal things, between the window, the two panes can expand. And when it gets cold, they can shrink. And over time, the expanding and contracting will cause like a pinpoint gap in that gasket between the two pieces of glass. And over time, moisture, humidity, oh gosh, I look so tired. Moisture, humidity will get into between those panels of glass, and you'll see little speckles initially. You will see, then it will kind of start fogging. And when it's really bad, it looks terrible. It's like all like rainbow white, whatever. And every once in a while, when they're really bad and they're really like terrible, you'll even see some like mildew growing in between the panes. Like it starts turning black and green. It's not toxic, but it's just like mildew green stuff. So anyway, more often than not, it's kind of a 50-50 thing with the windows. And right now our market is so hot that it's hard to negotiate anything. Okay. But we can always do our best to help you know how to move forward the best you can with the right information so that you don't get hurt and make a bad decision. Right? All right. Thank you from Jaci-O and Mr. Orlando O'Neill over here, my cheerleader. And we look forward to hearing from you and helping you soon. Have a good night. Okay.